Hi, I'm Lori with To The Trade, and for interior design community, I have Niall here. Hi, Niall.
Hi.
And we have a special guest today, Katye Bennett. Katie, we've known each other for a long time. This is the first time we've had you on the podcast. You are the PR agency that every integrator company, any company that works in home tech is using. You are an expert on AV and integration and smart home technology, but also understand the designers on such a deep level. So I'm so glad we have you here. And I would love for our audience to hear a little bit more about what you do and how you do it.
Sure.
And we've got, of course, Bailey here too, by
I'm
the way.
so excited
Just
that the pup came to join because now this just makes my heart so happy.
Yes. She loves the podcast. Yeah, every
Perfect.
time we're in a podcast, she has to come over and say hello.
Thank you for that intro. Yeah, I don't necessarily feel as though I'm that highly regarded, but that's just me and the introvert inside. But it's a really interesting conversation that's unfolding and continues to unfold. But as we were talking before we got recording, it's a conversation that we continue to have, and that, while it's a little sad, it's also really inspiring because there is a lot of work to be done. But as a communicator, I feel very strongly that if we change the conversation now, we can change the outcome as quickly as tomorrow. And, not that it's really that simple, but it really kind of is. There's a lot of resources there that just need to be properly linked together and then kind of properly managed too. So we'll talk about that a bit more, but thanks so much for having me on. It's so great to be here.
I'm excited too, because I think I am feeling the same way you are, that this is something that from a global level of interior designers, I am always trying to figure out ways that designers can be more respected, relevant to their clients, and earn more money. I mean, these are global issues that I think a lot of our community is interested in. And those are a lot of questions that we get from the community all the time. And so it's something that I have been keeping my eye on. I'm also a web expert. I look at SEO and digital marketing a lot, and I measure keywords and how what people are searching for in on a consumer level as well as on a designer level. I kind of keep my eye on that, and I can tell you, clients are very interested in anything that makes their life easier, and smart home searches are on a whole on the rise. So it's really very important for designers to pay attention to this, but I know the fears and frustrations of a designer when they're thinking about smart homes. So it's just been something that I think you're right. These things can be tackled and can be worked together. There are some underlying factors where it's just not meeting up. And I'd love to talk more about that, because I think that there is a strong possibility that interior designers are going to be that front salesperson for home integration. I know the brands want that, right? I mean, you can speak for the brands. The brands want that, correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, but it's so, and there are integrators out there that do want that as well. Some maybe less than others. I've had conversations with designers where the integrator walked in and was like, nope, we're going to move this here. We're going to move that. We're going to put the TV over here. And the designer's like, like, no, you're not changing the design and you don't get to say that. And, there's a lot of that kind of stuff that happens. And I was in Vegas, and they have an integrator there that came in, and it wasn't a conversation that I would like. Definitely the integrator themselves thought that they were like impressing me, because I was saying things like, it's really important to have a designer involved in these kinds of processes. And he's like, oh, we have a girl in our office that knows design.
I'm so sorry. My people. But there's the perfect illustration of exactly what I commented on coming into the conversation. I mean, I would bet I know who you're talking about. I wasn't in the room, but I've been in that room with that guy before.
Yeah.
that's what drives me every day to get up and out of bed and rise to the occasion if we've got to change the conversation. Because I mean, there's so
Right.
many things that are wrong with that comment, just fundamentally wrong.
Right.
Let's not even
Right.
get to the actual talent that the conversation was being directed towards. I mean, it's just so some of it's going to take generations just to erase that unfortunate cultural behavior.
Mhm.
But I will say that, even within our industry, that era is on its way out. There's a newer, younger integration community audience. There's a newer, younger brand leadership audience as well. So, we're in this kind of exciting and compelling time too, where brands and integration firms are starting to identify that they need to resonate with a younger audience. And that younger audience may not yet be in a position to be buying the things, but they've got aspirations and they're starting to develop what their look and their feel and their lifestyle, their vibe, what they want their space and their environment to be like and what it needs to ultimately how the role that it needs to serve. Some are still in multi-generational, some are not. But I think there's integration community is addressing those needs, but individually. And so I think we're at a point now, whereas if we can cohesively approach this together, design and technology, we've got a much better opportunity to really change the outcome of the industries working and the communities working together.
Right.
But we kind of have to, clear the table and reset it.
Yes,
But that's
I
cool. I'm
agree.
down. Like, I mean, that's really what we need to do. One of the things you and I were in a conversation, a different conversation, similar topic a few weeks ago, and I haven't had a chance to tell you, but I'm thoroughly inspired on a new way of approaching the conversation about technology and design. And I don't want to give it all away now, but I think essentially we've keep trying to do the same thing over and over. And from our side of the fence, technology, we want to be as helpful and creative as we can be in our industry. The custom installation was born on being the magicians behind the curtain that just made stuff do cool things, right? And back in the day,
Sure.
it took relays and switches and code that nobody understood. But all of a sudden, the shades went up and the lights turned down and the screen turned on, and what? And when you think about it, I mean, it was customized and personalized, and it was never repeatable. So our industry has sort of been trying to figure out how to make the magic repeatable, and like you all trying to figure out how to make money doing it. We got lost in the conversation about the design aesthetic and the way that the house needs to look and feel, not just perform. And on our side of the fence, we're all about performance. And so, I really think where we need to go with this is we need to start talking about technology and design as they go together. But what does the room, what does the environment need to do? Who are the occupants and what are their needs? Now we know we need to start talking about the aesthetic. We need to be talking about the backbone for that space, which is going to be technology, but most people don't want technology. They want the experience. So if
Right.
we change the
Ooh.
conversation to be about the experience of the room, now the technology just rides along with the aesthetic conversation. And I'm not saying it's that simple, but this is how I've been framing it since you and I had that conversation a few weeks ago, and it's like light bulbs going off all over the place.
I love it.
I love that. Yeah, I love that.
We've been talking about it. Niall and I have talked about we had Abiola Musin, who's a AV luxury design in New Jersey. I have like been pinpointing him as my spokesperson for what an integrator should be, because he loves to like collaborate. First of all, I think loving design and respecting what the designer is doing is a big part of it. And I think that's something that has been missing, the
Yeah.
missing link, I think, with integrators sometimes. He gets it. I think he came from an IT world, working corporate for IT, and
Mhm.
so working with in him, and so the IT background AV specialists probably all have that similar goal, but he actually really loves design too. You some
Yeah,
people who just love it,
absolutely.
and they get into this industry and they're like, "Oh, we love designers and we love what the outcome looks like when a designer is involved." And that's such a better way in. Oh, the like the golf simulator room.
Yeah.
A lot of designers are lost on that, but you talk about wellness and the environment and how the client is like that leveling up of that environment for their client. They love that aspect,
Yeah.
and how it can seamlessly not show. The speakers are behind the wallpaper and you're not seeing a speaker, but the sound feels like it's surrounding you and you're in a concert if you want it to be. I mean, that is something designers all absolutely appreciate.
Yeah.
But I think that we've been talking about before, Niall, you said you're different about this, but like most designers I know are deathly afraid of being tech support. I mean, some of them don't know how to use like PDF, open a PDF on their phone. So like they're just like, I don't want them to call me because this feature does not work.
which is
But
which is
there are folks that do.
honestly silly to me because you're not support for your, or you shouldn't be support for the furniture.
Right.
Like, a good contract says, I will help you in figuring out like who to talk to. Like, should something go wrong, I will pass your information along. So I don't know why you wouldn't take that same mindset with the technology. So
Right.
it's really funny to me that you would be, even thinking that you would be the one, that we would be the one, because we're not. It's
No.
just weird.
But I think
Yeah.
it's that phone call and that feeling of like, I don't know anything about this and no one,
And that's okay.
no.
And that's okay.
Yeah,
And I'll help you, but I'll help you figure it out. Like,
sure.
that's the one thing you learn in design school. Like, you're not going to know everything. You just have to know where to find everything.
Right.
Right?
Right. Be the
That's the
resource to
thing.
connect to the answer, not necessarily
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
answer
Yeah.
itself.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
what's really interesting about that, and one of the things I love is our communities really, we're structured very similarly. We just perform very differently. But at the end of the day, technology makes people feel really vulnerable until they feel as though they've mastered the thing. And technology changes so rapidly that so few of us get to feel like we have mastered the thing before the thing is on a new platform, a new version, a new subversion, and so, and myself included. I mean, it is cobbler's shoes situation here too. And Lord help us when the internet goes down. We freak out just like everybody else. It's a leveling point, right? But I think I've sort of made that part of my communication crusade is bubbling up that notion of vulnerability, and that it's okay to not know and not have the answers. And the more that I can share that with you, and you can tell two friends and tell two friends, it's okay to not
Right.
be the tech guru in the room. But it is really important, and I think we have arrived firmly at the destination of every designer should have a relationship with integrators, plural.
Right. And
You need
honestly,
more
if
than
you
one.
aren't going to do that, I've watched some things happen in the last year and that I'm a little bit concerned about because I've watched some companies buying up integrator firms and then the integrator firm basically offering free design services as well. So that's something to keep your eye on. I mean,
It's
they're not
interesting.
not what a real designer does. So I'm not, it's the same thing as like a furniture store having free design services. Who cares? But I do think that the client wants that seamless experience. And
Can we
Mhm.
yeah,
just really quick, because there might be a lot of people out there, designers listening, that don't even know what an integrator
Yeah, it's a good
is.
sure,
point.
go
So,
for it.
Really
like,
Yeah,
good point. Thank
for
you.
that relationship, you know what I mean?
yeah,
So, like, can we just sort of say like what that is and how
sure.
they're important to the designer?
Mhm.
They're basically just an expert in your lighting, your audio, visual, like the components of the home that are all
Okay.
behind the walls. You really want to bring in that integrator early days before the drywall is up if you're doing a new build, because they are going to put in speakers and security and lighting, to make the home seamless. And it can work so well for the client. If they're getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning, the blinds can slowly rise and the lights can slowly, it gets you up in the morning in the right way. It's air filtration, water filtration. It's everything in your home that has to be
It's the hotel
an
experience, quite
experience.
frankly.
Mhm.
It's the hotel experience. I mean,
It's
like
the hotel experience.
when I walk into the Encore and they hand me that iPad and they're like, "Oh, the blinds will open and the drape, this the whole thing. What the lights will." It's that.
Yeah,
That's what you get. So
that's what you
yeah, yeah,
get.
yeah, yeah,
Yep.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
But I mean,
Absolutely.
it can be implemented as simply or as extensively as you want. And sometimes building in these systems that you might not need to use today, but you might
Yep.
need to use tomorrow. And the way this industry is going is really interesting. I mean, Katie, there's the sensors that are coming out
I know.
that
Yep.
I know
Mhm.
they're so amazing
Yep.
that they can like know you, Niall, have walked into the room and you, Niall, have preferences And you could have your partner come into the room who has different preferences and blend those preferences.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, like, if you like
Absolutely.
it at 60 degrees and your partner likes it at 70 degrees, it can blend those differences and split the difference for you automatically and just make the room a difference between your lighting, the way you like your lighting, the way you like the TV sound to be, and just know you are in the room and experiencing the room and be able to adapt and collaborate with other people that are in
Wow.
the room. It's pretty
Yeah.
crazy.
And
That is
what's
pretty crazy. Allegedly, that's what Bill Gates has at his house. Allegedly.
Right.
I
Yeah.
I I
Yeah. That's
But
pretty
I
cool,
wouldn't
though.
doubt it for a minute because, I mean,
Yeah.
sensors and resonances, it's just here in North
Yeah.
America that we haven't embraced it. In Europe, that's been a thing for a very long time. And that's why
Yeah.
technology products are vary so greatly from North America to European. It's just we don't for whatever reason, we have not been a sensorized. We haven't been into sensors, and I think it's the coolest thing ever. I mean, it bypasses
Right.
so many control and automation that are automated and but they still have a manual component to it. You still have to tell the thing to do the things. Whereas sensors have been already programmed to recognize that these are your behavior patterns and what you like and don't like, and the things will react accordingly. I mean, it truly is magical, and it's coming, and I think it's going to come in hot. We're still
Yes.
not talking too robustly about it with CEDIA Expo coming up. It'll be interesting to see, but you'll definitely hear me talking more about it because it's fascinating. It's commercial. I mean, you were talking about the hotel experience. I mean, you open and close a
Yeah.
closet, the light goes on and off.
Yeah.
That's
Exactly.
why.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
They figured it
Yes.
out.
Yeah.
But I wanted to go back because you were talking about the tech support fear, and I do want to touch on that because that is a really big deal. And where I was inspired by what you said was that's where our worlds are exactly the same. For some reason, technology on the technology side of the fence, the consumer mentality is that service should be free. And so there's a reticence, continued reticence, it's like decades old, to consider that you should have a service plan for the technology in your home so that when something happens, the person can come and fix it. And that relationship has already been pre-established. And most times those programs include remote monitoring, so they don't typically even have to come on site. But there's just this insane reticence to, but I'm not gonna do the proactive route. I'll deal with it when it happens. And then your internet goes out and you're freaking out, you can't work, your kids can't do school, and half the stuff in your house isn't working. That's not the time to try to figure out how to service your home. So it's kind of insane. And I share this with you guys. Like, if we can crack this code, then world peace is next, and we're gonna be on it. But the design does not need to worry about being the tech support. They just need to have the right relationship with the integrator because they are tech support. Anything that they have interfaced with or that they have expertise with, they can be plugged in either contractual or on a urgent as needed basis to resolve those things. I think the fear from the design community, those that share openly with me, it really comes down to the designer has the emotional connection with the client, and they don't want the client to ever believe that they don't have a strong, confident design partner. And so, the integrator may suggest something, and the designer typically feels the question of, do I really need that? Like a conversation to have if you don't really believe in the thing that the integrators have suggested. And that's why I think coming at it more from an experience from the environment. Let's all, have that discussion first. Integrators will always say, get us in early. I say, get the integrator or integrators into the project before any decisions have been made whatsoever. And even, budget can still be a little bit loose. And that's a great thing because, again, most will say, I don't want technology, but they do want the lighting and they do want the shades and they do want the things. They just don't, it comes back to the
We don't
conversation.
know yet.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, I think that's part of it. And that's why I say multiple integrators, because just like designers, integrators specialize in certain areas of expertise. Certain brands are strong or have a more strong alignment, that sort of thing. So, an integrator really is the expert in the room as it relates to the technology for residents or commercial. Many of them work in both spaces, which is important to know
Right.
because, the same thing happens in the design community. Do a great job in the living room, and now they want you in the boardroom, right? So
Right.
we have that too. But I think really if there's getting the integrators and the designers connected is the biggest thing. If I can plug quickly, transparency client, but client because I believe in the mission. It's HTA, which is the Home Technology Association. They have an integrator finder on their website. it will only return results for those that have been qualified already. They have to qualify every year. It's a paid certification, and several points of that qualification include how they perform with trade partners. So if they don't get a passing grade every year with those referrals, they can't recertify and they don't get to be included in that list. So that's a really
No, and I know
valuable
that's
tool.
very expensive. I know that
Yeah.
you actually do vet that
Uh,
incredibly well.
Yeah.
So it's not as simple as, they know the information and they can be a part of it. If they're not
Mhm.
even working with designers properly, they're asked kind of tricky questions to make sure
Yep.
that
Yeah, they
you
ask
know
tricky
that
questions
you
several
know that
different
they are.
ways, so they can't.
Yeah,
Yeah, they can't predict the outcome and create an answer. Yeah, and then there's a
right.
technology assessment tool as well, and that's really important because you can use it for your walkthroughs with clients, or just get familiar with the conversation and walk through your own home and answer the questions, which I think is a great just kind of test run. If I was designing the space for somebody else, how would this living room work? But that technology assessment form is great, and all of those are on the HTA website. There's nothing, you just go on, grab them. The integrator finder's there, so you can always go in, and it's a really great tool because you can go in by state, by city, by scope of work, that sort of thing. So, anyways, I didn't want to go deep on the pitch, but I just wanted to make
No,
sure
no,
that
I
you knew
love
that
it.
tool was there and direct, kind of in correlation with where to find an integrator.
That is really important. I think
Yeah,
that is one of the struggles for designers is knowing the right integrator. They bringing in the wrong integrator can undermine the value of the
yeah,
design or change the design because it's another professional that maybe has an opinion about where things need to go and how things need to look. That also can cause some problems on the project for a designer. They
yeah.
don't want to be dictated, especially by another man. They'd be
Yeah.
like another man in the room telling them what to do.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a problem. It's
It
something
is.
that I think that is coming up. I have literally had those complaints come through our community. So, what do you think, Niall, as far as like the idea of working with an integrator? Has that been something that you have thought about in your projects, or is that something that clients aren't asking you for?
I honestly, so I have two schools of thought. I have one sort of personal school of thought, which is like I'm kicking myself because years ago, somebody reached out to me, like, and I don't remember her name, reached out to me. This is like when I first started my business about incorporating technology or integrator, and it all sounded great. I was just overwhelmed, and I never sort of went that route. And so I'm sort of kicking myself because she talked about what a great, source of revenue it was and blah, blah, blah,
Mm.
and how wonderful it was on the other side for your clients and all that. And then the other part is, I guess, to sort of go along with that is I sort of approach technology like I approach anything else. We don't do partial presentations. So you get presented everything at once. So it would be, here are the window treatments, and the window treatments will work like this. Or we're going to do a frame TV, and the speakers are going to be inset into the wall. They'll be drywalled over. You won't be able to see them. Like it'll just sort of be a matter of fact conversation. And I think, you make a really good point when you say it's about the experience, because I think that's one thing that we can, as designers, identify with, because it's the one thing that we like to make sure that we push across, that we're not just designing a space, we are creating an experience. And I think the integration of technology elevates that experience. It keeps that experience going. So I think it's one of those things to sort of keep in mind. It's literally all around us, and to be afraid of it is it's not necessary. I don't think.
Well, I think
I don't think.
it's
I don't.
beyond not necessary. I think at this point, for some areas, we're going to Design Edge in September 18th and 19th, and we're interior design community is going to be part of their conference structure. And Katie's coming, and she's going to be on one of the panels,
So excited.
but very exciting. And I think that's a perfect show for. I would love to see integrator like tech companies there, and not just because of that this is a small floor plan and designers can have those deeper conversations with the brands. I think that's really important and in the headspace to be able to absorb that kind of information, but also I've had conversations with designers in the LA area. They've experienced three major fires in the last 15 years, 10 years.
Mhm.
And you know, you don't know what you're breathing in. You know, you don't know. It's not even just sometimes about the aesthetics. Sometimes it's like the air quality control, the water
Oh yeah.
quality control, like things that we are taking for granted every time we are turning the faucet on or going to the fridge for a glass of water or getting ice from the ice maker, that or breathing in. You know, if you were around, you know, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of houses that burned down, the micro uh particles in the air that you're breathing in, you know, when my daughter's a scientist, so she's like, she'll always say, smells are particulates. They have particulates. So you go into the bathroom and it smells, you're breathing that in, you know, so it's gross, but that's what's happening. And
Mhm.
so air for purification is really important. You know, I mean, you don't know the long-term effects of the chemicals that you might be breathing in, you know, just being in your home. So if you're in an environment that has climate change issues, or if you're in an environment that has, you know, wildfires on a regular basis, like this could be something that you're implementing to your clients that actually physically help their health. And part of that is in like these sensors that can monitor things about your health or help you. It's not just as simple as like, as it can make your life easier, although that's the low hanging fruit, right? Like the lights and the blinds, but it's other parts of it that are just so important to bring people in and have these conversations. And sometimes it's like not costing you extra, it's saving you money. And, you know,
Absolutely.
and that
Yeah.
one of the things that really got me, Katie, was like probably like, I don't know, a year, maybe less than a year ago, I was having a conversation with Doug, and he was talking about passive home design. And I didn't know as much about passive home design, but read a little bit about it afterwards. And not a week later, the fires happened in Pasadena. And one of the photos that was like viral was this home that was passive home design, and everything burned around it except this one
Yeah.
house.
Yeah.
And it
Isn't
was
that
just
amazing?
like, whoa,
Yeah.
you
Isn't that
know,
amazing? Yeah, yeah,
it was
unbelievable. At the that
unbelievable.
the scope and magnitude of the series of events will forever change the construction community. And what's really interesting, some integrators are starting to dip into that now too. There's an
Sure.
integrator in Park City who's working with not only sustainable building materials, but also weather and event resistant. So they're doing like those SIPs, but they're concrete SIPs that are already preformed in the foundational level to house the speakers, for instance. And they already have all of the cabling pre-cut, I guess. So it literally is just like boop, in. And when you think about the difference of the construction, it's unbelievable. And I think we're going to see some huge evolutions in that, and that just further illustrates. And then you got to have the technology taken care of too, because
You
when
do.
building and construction changes, so too does how technology gets integrated. Building materials. Just talk about like building materials for a second, and technology networks. Okay, there is no home. At least I think that this conversation is going to be appealing to. There is no home that does not have a network of some sort running underneath it. And that really is a digital foundation of the home. And we need to be thinking about it as foundational aspect. Get the network right from the start, and things will behave better down the road, and fewer frustrations and fears like you were talking about. The other one is power and
Right.
energy management. You know, the reality is the grid sucks, and it's not getting any better. It's only getting more stressed. And these, you know, with all of the advancement in AI, data centers are popping up all over the place, and they require a lot of power, and we don't have a grid to sustain it. So homes are going to be
Right.
impacted, and they already are. In the design community, you may not even be seeing it, but a customer that's complaining about lights that are constantly flickering, or you're having to constantly reset the network, things are constantly crashing. Why? It could literally be the power behind everything else. And unless somebody on the technology side is paying attention to that, or is being fed the frustration points, they won't know to go down to the mech room and start taking a look at it. I was on some job sites recently, and going down into the mechanical room, fascinating technology. You know, snow melt, water purification, water filtration, and you know, on some of these much larger projects, if any of those go down seasonally, your pipes are freezing, and that's a really
Right.
big problem. Technology can prevent that. So, you know, that's why I get
Right.
so excited about this, you know, but we have to deepen the conversation. We need to do it quickly because it is so foundational. You know, and right down, you know, to the network, back to that point. Nobody will say they want but you need it, and how robust do you need it on the property, indoors and out? Are you in a close
Right.
neighborhood? Do you need that network to really not only go to your fence line and no further? Or are you a little bit more relaxed? Do you care if your neighbors can see your networks? And that's really important. I mean, securing those networks and keeping them tight. You don't want just anybody accessing your network, do you? Because all of your privacy is connected to that, your bank accounts. So
Now
further,
everything.
right? So the integrator's role
Right.
really becomes very foundational and functional, but the relationship has to be solid. And so final point on that is interview if you feel good about the way that they approach the conversation with you, that's indicative of how they'll approach the conversation relationship with your clients. And so you don't need to be the tech support, but you are going to be the emotional support. So make sure you feel really good about that,
Mhm.
about that person that you're bringing in.
Right. Absolutely. I think that that's key. Have those conversations, but understand what it's bringing to the table and understand that your client absolutely wants it. And I have talked to clients, like told you before that we started, that these are multi-million dollar clients that have had conversations with me directly. And said to me directly, I felt let down
Yeah.
when my designer did not work with the integrator and just
Yeah.
number one, didn't have a recommendation and also didn't work with them directly. I felt let down. And that is something you have to imagine that the client wants a especially at a luxury level, you want a seamless relationship with the project. And you want to make sure that, if there are experts that need to be called in for different parts. Now, granted, some of the clients don't want to pay for that, but
Yep.
they want, the right people to be called in for the right job, but also for the designer to manage that process for them in many cases. So, and also the other part of this, and you can absolutely attest to this because you work in the PR role for many of these brands. The brands want the designers to be the salespeople for these technologies. It's a win-win for a designer to be able to offer it. And never has there been a time when there's crazy turmoil happening in our whole world, that designers actually have some time to implement this kind of change right now because so many are slow at this period. Like, let's start thinking about ways we can make money beyond just design. And that's when we can become an expert this field and be able to. We talk a lot about in our industry about wellness. We talk a lot about in our industry about neuroaesthetics, but much of this is buoyed by technology, right? I mean, wellness and part of wellness is monitoring the wellness in your home through the experience you're having in your home. And part of wellness is, that ease of your brain to not have to see or think of things that are on your mental load, So if it's on your mental load, for us, we integrated in our home blinds that come up and go down automatically pretty early on because we have these like little windows at the top that you can't reach, above our bed, and the light would come in the morning or all night long. And it was one of the first things I wanted in this house. This is a 1920s house, and we got it. My husband didn't think it was that necessary. We got it. He loves it. Thinks it's like the best feature we have because we don't have to think about it. It's just one thing off of the conversation. It just goes up and goes down as the day is here or leaving us. And just these kinds of experiences.
It's
Um,
joy. Technology can
joy.
bring joy. It can also, when
Absolutely
it's
it
not
does.
cooperating, it's not joyful. But those little moments, same exact thing. Motorized shades in our house. As I was laughing and cracking up, my husband is video production. He's working on a piece behind me. He will say every day of the week that the motorized shades were the best investment we've made in our home, and they just continue to bring joy. We've got ours set so that if it reaches 79 degrees, if it's 79 degrees outside, and we've got west facing glass, that just bakes the living room. As soon as it hits that temperature, they drop, and it will literally bring the house temperature down by about 6 or 7 degrees. And that
Right.
is significant. If I can keep my house
Right.
from peaking at 85 inside in the end of summers, I can bring it down to 74 just by having the shades do what they need to do without me having to trigger it. Because otherwise I'll just, I
Right.
mean, I'm looking out those windows right now and I'll just sit here and continue to work away and go, wow, it's hotter than Haiti, but I'm still standing here. I haven't done anything, but my little
Right.
friend, Josh, he takes care of this stuff.
Right.
And it's amazing. And that's, so I kind of said that, like, he takes care of it. Like, your automation systems really can take care of the things that you need. That's where the relationship with the integrator comes in, is once we get comfortable with the technology, now what can we do to make it really enhance your lifestyle and the enjoyment and the aesthetic and ambiance of the home? Like, enjoyment. Like, there's lots of
Right.
things you can do. I mean, but if you don't have a great relationship with an integrator, you're not really going to want to have those conversations with your clients. And I think, that's kind of a tragedy, because then you're just only doing a little bit of what's capable with pretty amazing technologies.
I know sometimes it's just you already have that within
Yeah.
your you're already specifying these
Hmm.
things. They're just not working the way
Yeah.
that they should. I remember just the other day I was looking at a designer their social media, and their client had learned to program their faucet to dish out 1 cup of water, so that it just, like, they just put it on under and, like, use Siri or whatever to, like, get 1 cup of water automatically. It's these little
Yeah.
tiny pleasures that you're leaving, like, they're little presents and Easter eggs for your client for years to come that give them just an immense joy. And
Yeah.
that is real wellness. That's what wellness really should be, not just a color or a plant in the corner or, a beautiful surrounding. That is a part of wellness, but it's not the full picture. Is also taking things off my list that I have to do
Exactly.
and, making my life easier. And that's what technology can do for all of us. So
Hmm.
I'd love to see designers adapt it. But what's going wrong with this, Katie? Like, we've been talking about technology for so many years. I know CEDIA has really wanted designers to come and
Uh-huh.
attend. They don't come. They don't attend on a typical basis. When they do come, are they buying? Are they specifying? Are they having those relationships? What's going wrong
Yeah.
with making this happen?
So, I think one of the positions that I preach from with some frequency is we need to meet the people where they are. And as much as I love my people in my community, and I love CEDIA and CEDIA Expo and all the things, and I do, but CEDIA Expo as an event and as a destination is not really appealing to the design community at large. Those that have been coming for years, Tony Sabatino's, 2018, she was her first year in, and she comes back every year. She happens to be the MC of the CEDIA Awards, which is really cool. She's an interior designer that has embraced technology and has diligently continued to insert herself into the space, which I think is part of it, kind of diligently inserting ourselves where we want to be to create change. I mean, honestly,
Right.
that's why I'm here talking to you today, right? I mean, I
Yeah.
want to help create that change. But I think the challenge is that CEDIA Expo is a technology event for the technology community. And the technology community does not need to present aesthetically pleasing spaces or experiential environments at a show like we see at KBIS and IBS. I mean, it's just, fundamentally it's Venus and Mars. I would love to see an event where that existed. It's been really hard for those to get off the ground, though, and many have tried, but it's such a great expense to create an event like that, to really do it
Well,
right.
you had one of your brands, I think a few of your brands actually maybe at ICFF. How did that
Leon.
work for them?
So they
Yeah.
loved it. So that was Leon and Sonos partnered up, and they've
Yep.
got a collaboration with product design into it anyways, with a sound tile that is essentially, it's a piece of artwork with a speaker behind it that you can
I love
control.
it.
It's
Yeah,
it's
I
awesome.
saw it at the show.
And
Pretty hot.
that's those are the gateway products. We jokingly, gateway drugs. It's not. It's just it's a gateway product that gets you to understand that you can't have design and technology coexist in the same space. You just have to know where to get it. But Leon is one of those brands, and we trot them out to the design community with some frequency, but not enough, because they're a custom audio solution provider. They make speakers, but they really create an audio or a sound solution for a space. So they're very much into the conversation of what does the space need to do? What does it need to look like, feel like? And then they'll bring solutions to the table. But they do that through their
And their
reps and their
leadership,
integration.
right.
But they,
I
as you're
found their
talking,
leadership and I found their staff to be incredibly educated
yeah,
about the design industry
yep,
and really so visually appealing. I mean, that was in a beautiful booth,
uh-huh,
and I thought it was an excellent, and it was packed all the time with the designers.
right.
So I know
That's
it was right. You guys got a great space. You were right next to the speakers,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
also like it was constantly designers over there paying attention because it was beautiful,
Yep.
because it was represented them in
Hmm.
that way. And I'm telling you, designers were there paying attention
Yeah.
and looking at those product lines. And I think that's the key. I think it's like feeding them the technology in
Hmm.
designer. And when I say them, I mean designers, the
Yeah.
technology in a way that feels palatable and that they can understand and wrap their mind around how it could benefit their client. You
Hmm.
have to have that. Designers are, I mean, Niall, right? Like you're very visual people.
Yeah.
So being able to see how it could be integrated in that experience way, in a way that appeals to designers, like
Right.
you're one level up at that point. You're not selling to the client who might want your golf simulators and your TV over the fireplace, because designers will do that if they
Hmm.
have to. If the client really, really wants it, that's what the client will get what they want. But, that's not how you're going to sell the designer. You're going to sell the designer by showing them how they can improve the life of their client and that experience and how aesthetically pleasing that could look. They
Hmm.
just don't they want to know that part of it. And I think that that's where you kind of have to figure out who your client is. Like at these shows, you have to figure out who your client is, and it's
Yeah.
not the end user at that point.
Right.
It's the designer.
Right.
Do
Right.
you think that that's what's going on? Or do you think that that will be something in the future? I'm trying to bring you to Design Edge because I
I
think
know.
Design Edge could be a place for
Yeah,
that.
no, absolutely, and I think so as well. I mean, it's interesting that it's coming full circle because it was an exploratory conversation several years ago. I think it potentially is exactly the place that because it needs to be a bit more intimate, because the conversation needs to be more intimate as well, so that we can go back to that vulnerability thing, so that nobody feels vulnerable in such a way that they won't approach the conversation. And going into a large convention
Right.
center filled with a bunch of shiny things and brands that are meaningless, you're not really gonna walk in and expose vulnerabilities and walk away feeling better about that. Now you've learned something, you've got tangible takeaways. So, I think Design Edge, literally, it really could be it, and I'm very excited to come and see it.
Yeah.
The other thing is, aside from events, which are difficult and distracting, experience centers and showrooms, and the integration community has done a brilliant job, especially over the last, kind of post-COVID, of developing and redeveloping their showrooms and experience centers. And a lot of them are going with sort of vignette type of structure, which in and of itself, isn't super exciting. But what they're trying to do is show how technology can enhance the home, the experience, the lifestyle. Admittedly, they need designers to help them create that experience so that designers can help sell those solutions. And I think that's where it comes back, is we need to be working so much closer together, because integrators aren't designers and designers aren't integrators. And we don't claim to be,
Right.
we don't claim to have the expertise, but we need the knowledge and we need to incorporate the expertise in order to rise, go forth, and conquer together. You
Right.
know what I mean?
Right. I mean,
So,
I would love if I had my ideal world, and I've thought about this a lot. If you're a manufacturer and you're listening, or you're, you know, having, if your goal is to sell through interior designers, hire an interior designer and work with
mhm,
them in your own home. I really believe that
that's a great
that's
idea.
sort
Yeah.
of also another missing piece, because if you don't understand what they're bringing to the table and what they're dealing with, then how can you work with them as a market? So I think it's a big difference once people have actually, if you're a furniture manufacturer, have a designer design your home if you want to sell to designers, because you'll understand them on a
Right.
completely different level if you've done the project with a designer and understand what they're bringing to the table
Mhm.
in an entirely different way. And I think it's something where we're just having to have a little empathy. And if you're a designer, maybe hiring an integrator for your own house might be a great first step to understand how they work,
Mhm.
or having them on a project early, just like test it out, see what it's bringing to the table, so that you can speak with, you're worried about what the client might think going forward, but start, just get out there and do it. you
Right,
know
right. Well, it's sad but true. But I think, you should be kind of testing out the integrator relationship with yourself first before trialing it with a
right.
client. There's the home, and there's also your office. And I come back to the network. If you want a strong network that continues to do the things it needs to do, and you want it to be secured and properly managed, have an integrator get your house. Just have them come out and just sort out your network first, right? And
Right.
and that's it. That's all. Don't ask for anything else. and be very open in the conversation. I want to phase this out, but the first thing I want to get
Okay.
set is the network. And let's see how that goes, and
Network.
we'll
Okay.
build up from there. And if an integrator doesn't want to play that game, it's kind of indicative of how they're going to behave down the line if they're looking to cherry pick projects, and that they may be a great integrator still, but if they don't have the mentality that suits your personality and your needs, then they're just not the right integrator for you. So that would be my first recommendation. And there are a lot of integrators who will participate in that and say, let us come and get your network in your office set so you can see the work that we do and what the benefit is to you in your functional space. And then they will offer to be your tech support, which they should anyways. I mean, if they're facilitating the network, they should be your tech support for that. And they can stay in front of technology changes as well. And just Wi-Fi alone, not to freak everybody out, but we're already talking about Wi-Fi 8 and it's not even on the market yet. You need the
Right.
integrator to be aware of what you're doing, and particularly with projects that are larger or longer in scale. Like Wi-Fi 8 will be here in 2 years. So if you're just starting a project that's going to complete in 2 years, you got to have that conversation now because the cable infrastructure needs to be right. Wireless doesn't mean wire free; it's just less wire, and that's
Right.
it has to be part of the initial conversation. So you said something earlier, and I want to come back to it as well. Brands are looking for designers as specifiers. Brands are also desperately needing designers who will help them develop the product programs to help them do the work that they need to do. And that really doesn't exist. We've worked diligently with Leon for years, and they now have a designer program. It takes a long time because we know how to sell through our community, and we understand, we've got 3-step as well, but we don't we don't know what you guys, how do you guys source your products? What does that financial model look like? How does it work? So I encourage designers, if you're interested in being a specifier for a brand, and with that comes, obviously all of the training as well, which is really beneficial to your work. I think the best thing there is just let me know. And it's
Right.
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 And I
And
can
we'll
help.
include her information
Yeah.
in our blog post about
Mhm.
this, and definitely reach out
Yeah.
because this is something where it feels like it's been around for a long time, integrators and
Mhm.
designers collaborating, but it hasn't clicked yet.
Yeah.
You are still on the infancy right now. If you're jumping in today and starting to learn everything that you can about home integration, smart home integration for interior design, you'll still be one of the very few experts in the industry if you're starting today. So it's not something that, and it's one of those things, like it's always ever going to change. You can learn a new thing tomorrow and become an expert in that. I mean, AI is going to change so much
Yeah.
in the sensors and how
Yep.
they work going forward. I mean, it's incredible the differences.
Yep.
What do you think that it would take for our communities to really, if you're envisioning this in 5 years, what would be your dream scenario for how integrators and designers work together?
Man, dream scenario. In 5 years, it might be tough to think that it'd be a reality, but it's possible. I think that most designers would have at least 2 integrators in their book that they consider to be trusted resources, even inside circle friend level, at least 2. And depending on the scale of work, that, maybe more like 4. I would love to think that the design community would be more familiar with some of the technology lingo and language, simply to help the conversation, the communication be tighter, right? We need to be speaking the same language. Similarly, I would love to see the integration community learn to speak the language of design and have a much better understanding and appreciation for the way that designers work and the way that clients rely on the designer for different aspects of projects, much like the integration community ends up, having to try to figure out how to get service paid for. We know what our challenges are, but we need to understand what the challenges are from the design community as well. So I think in 5 years down the road, if we had a clearer understanding of what the real challenges are and how best to solve them, and if we could figure out how everybody in the room gets paid, that I think
Yes.
continues, and that's a deeper conversation for another day. But I think that together, our communities, we really need to have that conversation of the money on the table that's there for the project. How does everybody around the table get paid a fair sum? But there's also enough left in the bank to do the unexpected and be able to tap into that, right? And I of all the things we continue to talk about, that one continues to be kind of like that nuclear third rail of like, we can fix the conversation, we can fix the level of confidence and all the things, but until everybody's comfortable with how every resource in the room is getting paid, I think there's going to be that point where it's like, yeah, but I don't want that infiltrating my XYZ budget. And there's,
Right.
so,
Right.
and I don't have a solution for that. And I think, that's the thing. If we could do a think tank on that,
Yes.
please.
Well, I think it's something that we do because I
Yeah.
think that's always, I mean, for Niall, I'm sure it's oftentimes after the build that even the FF&E budget
Right.
gets cut,
Right.
and never mind like the accessories package at the end, which is like oftentimes overlooked. And, I have talked to clients who have opted out of the accessories package and then kicked themselves down the road because they go into a house that actually is fully designed and see the difference. I mean, it's without the personality. It's like you're ripping the personality right out of the house when you don't put the accessories in.
Absolutely.
So it's one of those things where it's like another line item, that the designers have to figure out how to pay for, in the
Right.
budget.
Right.
But I think that at the end of the day, the way that I see it being in is, does the client want it or not? Do
Right.
they want their life to be, is the experience of having security, lighting working for you, air quality control, all the fun things that you might want to have to make their lives better and easier, available to them at that moment's notice. I mean, that's the level of luxury. I mean, whenever we talk
Absolutely.
about true luxury is not having worries or anxiety about things that are
Right.
always on your plate. That's what
Mhm.
luxury, like waking up in the morning and being able to have that like slow morning where you go for a walk and you think for a moment. These are real luxuries that are invaluable to clients. So being able to have things taken off their plate, like that how they wake up, how they go to sleep, how their quality of sleep while they're sleeping, it can be controlled with technology. I mean, whether or not you're absolutely dark and absolutely quiet and you really get deep REM sleep, it can be controlled with your technology.
Right.
So that is an experience that's incredibly valuable to that client. And maybe it's just like the designer doesn't have that language to be articulately selling that to the client yet. And I think that once we do unlock this, I think that the clients do trust designers. I mean, they really do. And clients really put a lot of faith in designers. So I think that this could be another thing that they would put faith in the designer about.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you think,
Absolutely.
Niall? Niall, are you
Yep. I'm listening to
would you think that that's true or?
that clients put a lot of faith in designers and
Yeah.
trust us. Yeah, I do think that 100%. The question I was going to ask, which is why there's a lapse in my own head, is I think for designers it's where to start. We get overwhelmed. Like I wrote
Yeah.
down that starting in your own home. It's what I do anyway. Like for anybody that I'm working with for the first time, be it a contractor, be it a workroom, a tradesman, whatever. And I love the idea of doing the network first. So would you suggest that that be the thing you do? Because I know for me, you get so excited, you get so caught up in all the ideas, and it's like, okay, so then where do I start? Is it the like right now, in the kitchen, is it having somebody help you figure out these smart appliances and how to connect them to the phone and to make them do the thing? And is it the window treatments? Because window treatments are always going to be a part of the project. Like, is there one particular area where the designer can always think about integration for every single project? That's like that baby step to get them sort of in the habit of having an integrator on the project, almost like out of habit. If I'm making sense.
Yeah. No, that makes a ton of sense. Ton of sense. So network, absolutely 100%, because it is, it's the digital foundation of the home. Get the network right and everything connected to it has a much stronger likelihood of performing as it should and being capable of doing more when it's called upon. And for instance, when it's called upon. So you don't necessarily, the network isn't working as hard when nobody's home. But when everybody comes home and they start doing their things with the things in the house, the network has to work a lot harder. So you need to make sure that it was designed initially to deliver everything that the house needs and leave a little bit of room. And it's kind of it's a hard thing to understand, though it's so fundamental to our daily life, right? When the network slows down or you get the spinning ball or your streaming gets glitchy, it sucks. And so, I think really get the network right. As I explained, all of those things that are connected to it. So, I think the easy one is, what are the video needs of the home? And, it's like, it used to be much simpler in years ago where it's just a TV. Cool. Okay. We need a TV. But now, the TV, I put up those air quotes, right? Do we need a TV or do we need a TV that's a video wall? Does it need to do digital art as well as your movies, as well as your Zoom calls? Does it need to be running 24/7, 365 because you've got a stock trader or a hedge fund person in the house who is making money
Oh, wow.
only by having those displays running? Okay, now, yeah, that customer network 100%. Anybody involved with real-time data monitoring, analysis, or financial connectivity, that network is literally make or break. And there's a ridiculous sum that somebody threw up on one of my podcasts that their client said, if my network's down for 10 minutes, it could be $100 million for me. And those might not be exactly the numbers, but I mean, you start thinking about the
Yeah.
impact,
Yeah.
right? So, yeah. So, I think the
Yeah.
network, that there's kind of a lot going on in those examples, but, it's the TV is a display. And what does it need to display, and how, and what's the horsepower behind that display or those displays? And now there's multiples in the house. I love that you guys are calling it the frame. This is the technology design intersection. The frame is it, because never has there been a product that the design community is known by name. Like TVs are normally like it. And so, I
So
look at
I
that and I
just,
say
so
we're winning.
Right.
I love I love what you just said because honestly, the light bulb just went off. Like how you were saying, like, oh, TV, and then you're asking all these questions. And I think it's almost like just to get in the mindset of like the same way a client would ask for a sofa, the designer would ask all these questions.
Yeah.
Well, okay, you want a sofa, but do you want it to do this? How tall is the person sitting on it? How short is the person sitting on it? What kind of comfort do you need? Like, how old are all the things that we would ask about upholstery that you don't know if you don't know are the same things that happen with the television is why you need an integrator, right? Because it's like, I would never even imagined about the stock trading and all that kind of stuff. That never even occurred to me, right? So it just makes sense. It just makes
Well,
sense.
it's not even stock trading, like any stress on the network. You have your beautiful kids. Like if they're all streaming,
Oh gosh.
television ads in their rooms, and depending on the size of the house too, like it becomes much more complicated to make
Yep.
the internet work well in all corners of a home, the bigger the home is. I mean,
Yeah.
there are
And
mesh networks, but it's
That's my
much more
life right now.
complicated.
Yeah.
yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that's another thing for like receivers and sensors and things that are happening in the home, but it's just there's a lot of stress on every single person's internet. So you're right that that's the first place, and asking them how they're using it. How did their what important things are happening with technology at home? Are they working from home any period of time? Are they doing any sort of podcasting, streaming, or are they getting important data, real-time data from the internet? Are their kids streaming? There's could be a list of, I mean, I'm sure you guys have like lists of questions the designers
Absolutely.
could be asking.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Oh my
that's
God. So
really,
that could even go on like your intake questionnaire,
Yeah,
honestly. Like
intake
when you,
questionnaire
you
is
know, so
like,
that you get them. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
because a lot of this is
This is
really
so
important
good.
to like before the walls go in, like just to have it
Yes,
wired
yes,
properly, so
yes.
that you're making sense of it all for the client down the road. And that
absolutely.
there's room to expand. What if their family expands or their business moves into their home or their,
Yep.
situation changes too, like to be able to
Aging
be
parents.
adaptable.
Yeah, aging
Yes,
parents.
aging
I mean, just
parents.
think about that. I mean, like, and you don't know when the scenario is, your parents are one fall away from completely changing the rest of their lives and yours. And
Yep.
it's a sad reality, but we kind of need to be thinking about that. And as we're living in our homes, how do you adapt, and what can be adapted quickly? And is it a permanent adaptation? Is it temporary adaptation? And and technology will absolutely drive that. And I think there's maybe a good kind of a bit of a warning call there is like, literally one fall away from situations changing and your clients are in the same position. So start thinking about how if the needs of the home need to rapidly change to adapt to somebody with less mobility. What does that look like? What does that feel like? How are they going to access technology? Voice control. May not want it now, but when you lose capacity to use your hands or fingers for whatever reason, then having technology that is only responsive to hands and fingers, you're going to need to change that. So, and voice is actually, it's a lot of fun. And I know a lot of people are like, I don't want to talk to my house. And it is a little weird when you talk to your house, but you're really just talking to a digital interface. And once you learn the language and how each can cooperate, it actually is really quite nice to walk in the house and go, hey, buddy, lift the shades, turn on the lights, please. And so it's like a one trip wonder over here. That's really helpful, right? And now, you've learned a little bit about me and my personality. So, you guys would design around that, and the technology integrator would absolutely pick up on those cues. And so that's when I was mentioning the HTA earlier, that intake, there is a technology assessment form, and that really is, it's an intake form for the technology side of the conversation. And that's a free tool, and it's on the HTA, which is htacertified.org, by the way. Cruise around, because there's also a technology budget calculator there.
Ooh,
That's
it's like
can use
solving
it.
all the problems for us,
Right?
right?
It does.
Know it existed.
And what it does is it just creates a starting point for the conversation based on how the client has responded to it's just a wizard. So how you or the client is responding to each of the questions that are asked, then it'll derive an estimated budget based on the input, garbage in, garbage out. So, be realistic, get a realistic, and keep running scenarios. And that's the best part about it. It's like, okay, well, maybe you didn't think you wanted to invest that much in lighting, but now that you've learned a little bit more and you realize what you can do with landscape lighting and, all of the things, that budget might be a little bit bigger. Run it back through the calculator and see now what that looks like. So you can go there, you can find an integrator. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
you're selling that value to the client's lifestyle
Totally.
right there. It's the same as you are with the furnishings and with the surroundings. You're selling that piece. Like, this is going to make your life easier in this way too.
Right.
So understanding its capabilities, understanding the landscape and what is on the table can absolutely increase not only your profit, but also your ability to serve the client, which I think is ultimately what every designer is trying to do. So thank you so much, Katye. This is so great.
Yeah, I know. And we knew this would happen. We could just keep talking for hours.
Talk forever. I mean,
I honestly, seriously,
a topic that I think designers think, ugh, I could not even listen to something. And now I think that just in hearing you and the resources, I think that they could wrap their heads around that this is possible for them. And this might be the perfect time too, because maybe things are a little slow right now in your business and you can plan on adopting a new skill set.
Absolutely.
So, perfection.
And what I would say to that kind of, tangible takeaways from the conversation is, now from the listener side, as you've processed the conversation here, start a running list of things that are compelling to you in the technology space, things that are confusing to you, what freaks you out, or what are clients asking you that you don't feel confident that you've got a good answer for, just to get through that part of the conversation, right? Like, how important is audio in my home? If somebody were to ask you that. Cool. Okay. We can help you answer that question by asking a few more questions. The more you squeeze out of them, the better you can answer it. But start making that running list and then revisit it periodically. And if you keep finding that the same questions are arising and you don't have those answers, reach out. I'm always here to help. I don't know all the things, but I know people that know all the things. And at HTA Certified website is a great resource. Really, I mean, as you heard, just there's tons of information and education. If you want help, if there's a particular brand or category of technology that you just want a little bit of a deeper dive, I can absolutely bring a circle of friends together to have that conversation in a very safe space. So contemplate that, and if that becomes interesting and compelling, let's do that. So
that sounds perfect. Thank you so much. We'll make sure that this goes out very soon, and you guys all have more information about Katye, because you're going to need to get in touch with her for sure. All right. Thank
absolutely.
you.
Just call Katye. Thank you guys so much.